Hello, this is Matt from Laser Bear Creations, and you're watching the assembly guide for the Scary Tree Box. This box is designed to hold up to 100 sleeved cards or more unsleeved cards, and has a unique locking mechanism built into the hinge, which I call the keyhole lock. I printed my project on my Glowforge Pro using 5mm material, and I also masked my material, which I'm removing here, and used 2 different stains. I used Gorilla Wood Glue for my project. You want to start by assembling the bottom of the box, which I have kind of laid out here with the side piece first. So I like to use a brush with the glue to add in between the spaces of the finger joints. I add glue to both pieces that I'm connecting, and I add a little bit on the tops of them as well. I like to create a nice good fit. There is some spillage that happens with wood glue, but when I see that, it's kind of a good sign that I know I got a bunch of glue in there and it's got a good connection. I am using the 5mm files without kerf, so it's a little unstable until you get all the pieces together, but that's also why a bunch of glue is needed, because they're not as tight. There are files that come with kerf already included, and a multitude of material thicknesses are available starting at 3mm and going up from there. You'll see me in a bunch of the videos having to clean up the wood glue, so I use a paper towel, a toothpick, or sometimes a Q-tip to get that glue cleaned up. Now that we got the front added, we're going to add the other side piece, exact same thing that was done before. Just add glue to all the finger joints and on it goes. Easy peasy, no problem. For the back piece, you want to add glue as we did before, but do not add it to the above little square. That's part of the joint, so you don't want to add glue to the joint. As you see there, I skipped it at the top. Do not add glue to the upper part. That will cause problems later. Once you get glue added to both sides, simply line it up and put it in. This design is also based off of one of my first designs I did, the original Scary Tree Box, which only held 60 cards and didn't have the outside border or the keyhole locking hinge design. I do use some clamps throughout this project. The reason I like to use clamps again is that these files, the ones that I used in my project, are without kerf, so they need a little bit of pressure for the wood glue to really stick. But I find once they sit for a little bit, you can take the clamps off. Depends on how much of a perfectionist you are, but it works really well. So here I'm just laying out the top part of the box. The really important thing to note here as I start with one of the side pieces is that the way the box is designed is that when it's fully assembled, it's really what clamps the hinge together. So the last side you don't want to do until you put it onto the other bottom part of the box. You'll see it here later in the video. The side pieces, when you do them like I'm doing here in the video, don't tend to stay on very well. If you have that problem, don't stress about it. Just get it on there and move on to the front piece here. It'll make it very much solid and easier to work with once you add that part. And we're just adding the glue as we did before and everything, and it pushes right in. A note on that top part there is I do think you want to make sure that you got it facing the correct way, so you might want to do a dry fit before you put glue on the side piece and make sure you don't have things turned around. The back, I think, goes on one way, and the front, the finger joints don't quite fit. So maybe do a dry fit before you add glue to make sure you've got it correct, or just hold it above it to make sure you've got the right front and back. So now I've got the back piece on. We do a little bit of cleanup, and then we're gonna get the bottom part out here. And this is the piece this is where you're gonna see I'm gonna insert the hinge joint, which looks like the keyhole, into that spot, and then flip it on its side so that we can insert the last of the top of the box. And this is the piece that creates the joint and makes it function. If you're familiar with laser cut boxes, this is a commonly used way to do a joint. But I think the hinge design that I created here is, you'll see that kind of keyhole shape. The whole goal of it is so that the top of the box can't flap open until you lift it up off of it and it moves into the unlock position. So I wanted to do a design that didn't require magnets or a strap or something else. It's all kind of built into the box, but it still kind of had a little bit of a locking mechanism built in. This was my first attempt at it in the design, and I think it worked pretty well. But once you get this assembled, I'm adding some more clamps to keep everything tight. Honestly, you can leave it like this. All the next part of this assembly is really just kind of adding some nice border designs to it. And you do want to start with the bottom and the top pieces. The bottom and the top are interchangeable. You can rotate them how you want, use them how you want. They're the exact same. They're identical. But the reason that you want to use those pieces first is everything else will kind of align to that. It makes it a much easier process. So just trust me, this is definitely the way that you want to do it. I guess the negative to using the wood glue is that you do gotta kind of wait. As you see here, I've got to clamp all these pieces on, so if you use something else or a different type of adhesive, it might be faster. But we're going to move on to the side panels here. You'll see I'm just cleaning things up, but in the top side panel here, I make a mistake. You'll see me fix it later, but I add glue all the way down the side, kind of where the hinge is. And it didn't mess my project up, but I didn't realize it until I had already put it on there. But there's a gap that you're going to want to leave for glue so you don't accidentally get glue into the hinge. So I think it would be, yeah, on that back piece I just did, you don't want to add glue all the way there. You'll see it on the other side, but just take note of that. See how it lays on the hinge there. It's in the way. The bottom piece is no problem. You just kind of want to align them so that they'll match the bottom and the back and be flush to the front. So make everything kind of flush to the sides and the bottom. And just a note too, like why I'm wearing gloves and they're super dirty, is I was in a time crunch to try to get this done before I had to leave. So I didn't have enough time to let the stain dry. So I would recommend definitely waiting on the stain to dry before you try to assemble it. Things get pretty messy, but the gloves kind of kept it fine, and if the stain rubbed around, it doesn't matter. But here's the part where you see I add a little bit of glue, and I'm going to leave a space so it doesn't get in the hinge. This is what you want to do. Don't do like I did on the other side. This is the way to do it. Now just finished up, add the glue or whatever adhesive that you're using. It should go just fine. Again, I did need to clamp, so you can put the clamps on, leave them for a few minutes, and then kind of come back, and they tend to hold their place. But we're going to move on to the bottom jaw of the front of the box. Here you just want to align the bottom 90-degree corners with the bottom of the box that you've assembled so far. Now, this is why you wanted to do the bottom of the box first, because now it will neatly align and glue to that bottom piece that you put on there. I really liked my original Scary Tree design box for 60 cards, but I think adding these border pieces really helped hide all the finger joints and like really makes it look pretty special. So I'd be curious if you guys like it or what you think about it, but it turned out pretty well. Now you flip it over the back. You're going to add glue to the back piece, and same thing here. You're just going to align the bottom corners with the bottom corners of the box. Make sure everything is flush. You see I'm going to put it on right here. And I got the camera in the wrong place there a little bit. But as you can see, I'm trying to align the bottom pieces. And I should have taken off the clamps while I was doing this. They got in the way, so you'll see me. I'm going to take them off here in a second. But they got in the way. Yeah, there we go. And then I can properly align it. That's the nice thing about wood glue is, you know, it kind of like moves around a little bit, so you've got plenty of time to get it exactly where you want it to go. Now we're going to add the top of the back piece. Nothing special here, just the whole goal of adding all of these pieces is to hide the finger joints and to add a little bit more detail to the box, but should slip right by the hinges just like that. The other nice thing about this back piece that I just put on there is that the hinge and the locking position actually rests a little bit on that piece of wood that I put on, so make sure that's tight. Some of the tension's on that and not on just the little hinge part. So I think it makes the hinge actually stronger and more secure. The top part sticks up a little bit, so make sure you add some stain to it in the back if you want it darker, but you want to align the tips to kind of the top of the teeth, and it should fit on there just fine. So this is just the final product without any cards in it. As you can see, you have to lift up the box. It does get snagged a little bit on how you're doing it. If you mess around with it, once you get a feel for it, it actually works pretty well. But you do have to kind of align it exactly with the square, and then it slips right on. But the advantage of it is, like, I can turn it upside down and it works fine there. If you do jiggle it, it like comes loose a little bit. But overall, like, for not having to add magnets or any clasps or do anything crazy, like, it works pretty well. Especially here, this is the original Scary Tree box that I'm going to pull out. It's got for 60 cards, and it's simply just a round hole with the square piece in it. You can see the difference, and when you flip it over, it immediately opens. So compared to that box, like, it locks very well. So I hope you liked it. Check out my Etsy shop if you're interested in the file, and please follow my channel. Thanks.